Liv's Recovery Kitchen is talking to Lou Lebentz. Now, Lou was a therapist at the Priory for over 10 years. Lou has a really interesting TED Talk. I encourage you all to watch it. I'm going to put a link into the bio. And she has set up something called Sweet Enough. It's a wonderful program of recovery from sweet food and sugar.
From sugar, really.
Yeah.
Sugar and refined carbohydrates. Yeah.
Yes. And I think we're both on the same page when it comes to good nutrition and recovery. I'm really passionate about what Lou's doing, and I want to bring it to my audience. So, without further ado, hi Lou.
Thank you, and thank you, Liv, so much for inviting me. I'm really grateful, and it's lovely that we've connected. And thank you for taking the time to interview me. And I hope I can be of some benefit to everybody that's listening.
My pleasure.
Cool.
I have no doubt about that.
Good, thank you.
Let's kick off with my favourite question for all of my interviews, which is, what have you had for breakfast today?
Okay, breakfast. Wow. Okay, I'm quite partial to Greek yogurt.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's if anything, that's my new addiction, I suppose. And I always have it with some berries or mixed berries and some nuts. So that's what I had this morning. And I don't on my sugar program, unless you're in the 3 weeks detox periods, I don't stop fruit, natural fruit.
Oh, right.
So,
excellent. I think people have this vision, don't they, when they go on a sugar-free diet, that you're going to end up on this Atkins, no fun diet, I call it.
Yeah, no fun diet. No, I don't believe in that. I kind of believe in sustainable. So
yeah, I'm completely on the same page. What I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about your story.
Okay.
I read your blog on your page, and oh my God, do I relate to it? Particularly with you talking about how you use food as a comfort from a young age. And you said in later life that you described overeating as an attempt to stay hidden and small. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I can tell you quite a lot about that probably, because not only in my own story, but also with working with clients, in that there seems to be always a secondary gain.
Yeah.
In our staying bigger. And actually, I think there's quite a few. So for me, one of mine was whenever I spoke out in the past, or whenever I suppose I shone in a way, or shined, I always felt that I got quashed down for it, or into trouble for being too popular or too outspoken or too me, I guess.
Too the vivacious person you are.
Yeah, well, sometimes we're not allowed to be who we are.
No.
We're kind of moulded, aren't we, as kids, to go down this certain route. So, yeah, for me, one of my attempts at kind of self-sabotaging myself, I think, was with food. And one of the gains in it was I didn't have to be the best that I could be. I didn't have to step into the light or step into the limelight, because, you know, I know that you and I have discussed at other times, sometimes taking that centre stage or speaking out or having a voice is actually really scary. Yeah. You know, really terrifying. And food and sugar and meat is a way of, you know, I it's almost sugar coating yourself and your soul. Because if you keep dampening yourself down or hiding or staying small, you don't have to be all that you are. And becoming all that you are, sometimes I think that's more frightening than staying stuck.
Yeah. And I think I love your description of sugarcoating yourself, because I guess in a way doing that kind of, it feeds into the people pleasing and the making yourself more palatable for other people's vision of how you should be as a person.
I don't think it's unusual to say, and you know, those in recovery and who are watching this will get it, that sugar and food for me quite often, and let's say call it personally, goes with codependency.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what comes first, the codependency or the sugar and food. But, codependency is all about putting everybody else first and above yourself, and people pleasing and being that kind of nice smiley front, and inside you're hurting. And I think my codependency, God, I was writing my newsletter this week today on transgenerational trauma.
What on earth is that?
Transgenerational trauma. It's about imprints that we carry from our parents and our grandparents and other lives before us, and their histories, and how genetically or somehow through our DNA, or even maybe, I don't know, is it nature or nurture, we pick up things through our parents and grandparents.
Yeah.
And so I was writing my mother's story this week because, something came up for me this week around her story and about the birth of my codependency. And with the birth of my codependency came the birth of my addiction issues and my food.
Yeah.
And also food, for lots of people, it represents that connection with mother, doesn't it? I'm writing about that connection with mum, and not rejecting mum and not rejecting others. And
it's fascinating, isn't it? I think this brings us beautifully onto your TED Talk.
Good, nice segue.
Yeah, I was blown away by this, and I think we discussed earlier that I'm giving a talk on Sunday, and this has come at such a wonderful time to be able to see somebody that has said, I am fearful of public speaking, and therefore I am going to tackle this, and that to me is inspirational. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
That's okay. So what I particularly liked about the talk is your description of your 30s. You said you spent your 30s on a treadmill of eat, smoke and drinks that you don't have to feel.
Yeah.
And it was only a psychotic episode that woke you up. Can you tell us a little bit about feelings that you were trying to avoid and how that's changed in recovery?
Gosh. And it wasn't probably just the psychotic episode that woke me up, because that happened at 24 and I didn't quite wake up then. I kind of had that jolt, but sadly I didn't get into recovery until later, so I fell back asleep again, and then it took lots of other things to wake me up. I think I was medicating, Liv, so much stuff, so much of, and I'm sure people that are watching can resonate with this, that there is an attempt to self-soothe always, and it's really hard because there's kind of the part of me that's the therapist and has done all the educational stuff, and then there's the part of me that's the person, and so which is professional and which is personal, and I think for me all the medication really was about trauma and early trauma and childhood trauma, and having a nervous system now with all the healing work that I've done and the EMDR that I've done and the therapy and the, you name it, I've probably been all over the world on some sort of spiritual journey trying to let go of certain stuff. My body is shaken so much in recovery. I think it was holding on to quite a lot of, deeply traumatic memories. And my using mostly, I think, was about trying to medicate those and block them out and hide from them.
Yeah. And how has that changed now? How do you experience feelings now?
God, well, it took me a while. And it took me training at the therapist, and it took me a lot of my own healing journey, I think, to be able to sit with them. And to be honest, I didn't put down everything at once. I look back now and I think I did it kind of gradually. I didn't do alcohol and cigarettes and codependency and men and relationships and sugar all at once.
Oh, that would be too painful.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe. And I don't know, if I'd gone into treatment. I never went into treatment. I kind of ended up working in treatment, having never been into treatment.
Yeah.
And maybe working at the Priory was my own treatment. I mean, the first 2 years there, and please, if the Priory are listening, don't mention this. But I remember literally being in group therapy and listening to life stories every day, and here, running groups, and I would be in tears across Richmond Park every night on the way home.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I coped so well in the first couple of years because so much stuff came up for me. But I had a lot of people in recovery and a lot of meetings around me and a lot of support.
But you did cope though, didn't you? Because you didn't use.
Yes, I did cope, and I didn't, and I haven't, fallen off the wagon with booze or fags for over a decade. So
that's incredible. That is so incredible. And I really relate. For me, I stopped drinking, and then I addressed my prescription drugs problem, and then I stopped smoking, and then I dealt with weight.
Yes.
So this brings us on perfectly to a question I wanted to ask you about your story when you said that, I'm going to quote it, putting down addictive tendencies and behaviours became paramount, and it mattered so much that I had to overcome my demons and self-destruct, which included sugar as my last substance of choice. Yeah. Can you tell me about what the parallels are between food addiction and drug addiction?
I think that they are one and the same thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was lucky with drugs in that, other than nicotine and alcohol, which are drugs, by the time I'd got into media and cocaine and all the other drugs were around, I'd already been locked up in an asylum with a psychosis. So I was really lucky that I was doing everything else to such a degree then. I knew that if I went the drug route, that would absolutely floor me. But whether it's coke or drugs or alcohol or sugar, I think it's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same behaviour. And maybe, people get cross with me, maybe some people don't have that sensitivity to sugar like they do to alcohol or drugs. Maybe sugar, if anything, for some people might be slightly milder on the spectrum, and it's not as addictive potentially as, but I don't know, for a lot of people I work with, it's up there, and it becomes a replacement. You put down everything else, and then the food comes in. Yeah. So it's all one and the same thing for me.
I was positively encouraged to drink sugary drinks and have a bag of sweets with me for meetings to replace the sugar that I didn't have from alcohol anymore. Yeah. And and I think that's why we're both so passionate about what we do, because I think there is such a gap in the market for educating people about good nutrition and recovery.
Unbelievable. I agree with you.
What would you say are the benefits of eliminating sugar?
Well, firstly, for me, sugar does absolutely in my brain, and not just sugar, I can't do sweeteners. Mm-hmm. So I actually got addicted to chewing gum. So when I gave up fags, unfortunately, I then replaced it with nicotine chewing gum, which I then became addicted to the nicotine chewing gum.
How many people are like that?
Oh my God, I was on that for a while. Yeah. And then I replaced the nicotine chewing gum with normal sugar-free chewing gum. But of course, sugar-free chewing gum's got sorbitol in it. Yeah. So some of the ols, the polyalcohols, do the same to my brain. I can feel it. So, I was getting through a tub of chewing gum a day, which is quite expensive. They're like £2. So, I digress, but it does the same thing to the VTA, which is basically the addiction center in the midbrain where drugs and alcohol hit. Sugar still has a effective, it lights up that dopamine reward center. So for me, I want to try and get people with brains that might be slightly more hot wired to like mind altering substances. I want to get them off mind altering substances in their recovery and giving that VTA and that reward center a break.
Yeah. And would you say, is what you're saying that those who have addictive tendencies are more sensitive to the reaction of the brain with sugar than those that perhaps don't have addictive tendencies?
I think that they could be, absolutely, but I also know that there's a different lock and key for different neurotransmitters for some people. So some people like serotonin, some people like GABA, some like acetylcholine. So all the different neurochemicals that come from different drugs or different substances. And some people just like all of them. So I think it's a very individual thing. Like I know people that can do can do sugar, but they've been really chronically addicted to cocaine or cannabis, but they don't have that kind of relationship with sugar. But anybody in recovery, as we know, if you're in recovery from cannabis, I wouldn't suggest that you drink alcohol. And if you're, it's cross-addicting in my book.
Would you say that, because when we talk about sugar, everybody thinks of, to the American audience, candy, and to us, sweets and, sugary things. But actually, the spectrum is the food group is quite wide, isn't it? Can you tell us what that broad description covers?
I can. It covers anything that ends in OSE. So a sugar is anything that ends in an OSE, and that includes glucose, fructose, sucrose, malactose, lactose. Anything that's OSE is a sugar. So sucrose is really easy because it's white table sugar. Fructose is fruit sugars, and glucose is carbohydrate. So anything that's carbohydrate is a bread, a pasta, a muffin, a bagel, a potato. Carbohydrates are a really wide range, and they sometimes get a really bad rap, carbohydrates, because they are glucose and they turn to sugar when we eat them in the body. So I'm not saying that everybody has to go on a low carb diet or eliminate all carbohydrates from your diet. But what I am saying is that high GI carbohydrates and things that turn very quickly to sugar in the bloodstream when we eat them are probably best avoided.
Like white bread, white rice.
Absolutely, absolutely. All of that kind of stuff, because they're just so high GI. I think we get the hit and we get the blood sugar rush. And also, they're not great for our health.
No. Oh my God, I so relate to that. Last year when I was on my weight loss journey, in fact, it was the December 2014, and I worked with a food coach, and she asked me what my kind of guilty pleasure was. And do you know what it was? It was Bombay mix sandwiches. Oh, it's disgusting. So disgusting.
I've never heard of them.
Bombay, no, I made it up.
Oh, did you?
I'm a creative genius. So, on white bread, butter, and there's something about crunchy for me.
Yes.
I don't understand that. I'd love to talk to you more about that another time. But so the white bread,
Yes.
And it has exactly the same response as cocaine and alcohol.
Sugar. As soon as you put it on your tongue, white is just sugar.
Yeah, and my brain goes more.
Yeah. So there's certain things that are just trigger foods for us. And I always try and work out people's trigger foods and get them to eliminate at least those. Yeah. And also fructose gets a really bad rap. I don't know whether you've heard all the stuff about fructose. So fructose is the high fructose corn syrup that's in America. We don't have it here, but they've got it in everything.
Because we have it banned here, don't we?
Yeah. But they've got it literally in everything. And the problem with fructose, it's also in fruit juice. Yeah. So you've seen all this stuff about don't drink fruit juice, and it's got like equivalent of 10 teaspoons of sugar in. Yeah. And fructose isn't great for us. So if you eat fruit, eat it in its fibre, because once you juice it and you take the fibre out, the body cannot process that amount of fructose, because fructose only gets processed by the liver. Yeah. No other cell in the body can uptake fructose. So we've now got an epidemic, would you believe, of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Yeah. Yeah, as well as obesity.
And would you say that is because of the fructose, or because... That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And if you listen to some of the world experts, you know, there's a guy that I read and I admire a lot in America called Robert Lustig, who is an endocrinologist and has written a great book, Fat Chance. And, you know, he talks a lot about the biochemistry and the endocrinology of sugar. And I agree with him on a lot of points. I really think he's kind of hit the nail on the head.
That's fascinating. For just going back to the high fructose corn syrups, to somebody that doesn't have a comprehension of fructose or high fructose corn syrup, what are the types of foods that they might want to have a look at?
They want to look at if there's anybody in America watching. I'm sorry, guys, we're not far behind you. I'm not signalling you out, but I think. The Fed Up film that I watched with Katie Couric says that 80% of food items in America have added sugar. Wow. 80%.
I read a journal once that suggested that there was evidence to suggest that if you ate the same diet that you had here in America, that you would put on weight, because everything is so much more processed.
Yeah, everything is. They have sugar in their cheese over there.
Yeah, it's insane. Although California, not so much. California is great.
There are pockets of places where I guess it's much more healthy. Yeah. And you have availability of more, you know, fresh, organic, whole foods. But basically, I say if it's got a food label on it, don't bother.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Because if it's got a food label on it, it's not natural, it's packaged, it's processed. And by the time, as lovely Zoe Harcombe says, who's a great UK PhD obesity researcher who I love, she said, if men in white coats or women have had anything to do with the food that's on your plate, don't touch it. Because we managed to screw it up.
Yeah, we do, and I think food has become so processed that, you know, it's as if the scientists know it's going to have a particular response in your brain.
They do. Yeah. Sugar, salt, fat. Is it Michael Mosley? Yeah, How the Giants Hoodwinked Us. Food Giants Hoodwinked Us is a great book, and they know exactly how to hit the bliss point in the brain. Yeah. So they get the right crunch and the right texture and the right fat and sugar mix. Yeah. Boy, we keep popping.
Yeah, and add that to the advertisements, you know, the reward. It's crazy. Okay, so let's just so you worked at the Priory for 10 years.
I did.
As a psychotherapist and addiction therapist, we've touched on that a little bit. What led you to to deciding to set up your business Sweet Enough? What?
My psychosis.
Excellent.
So really, if I'm being very truthful to you and all of your listeners, it was absolutely what happened to me at 24.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess people have to watch the TEDx talk to see it. But briefly, when I was in my psychotic state, shall I tell them the punchline that somebody's...
Yeah, well, it's up to you. I mean, I'm going to put a link into the talk, so... Yeah.
I may as well say.
Yeah, sure.
I may as well say, because people haven't got the time to watch it. Basically, at 24, I was spiked with LSD. And the LSD led to me having a psychotic episode, which was probably one of the best moments of my life in hindsight. But at the time, it wasn't very nice.
Isn't it amazing that we can laugh about it today?
Yeah, I couldn't quite laugh about it at the time.
No.
Now, 20 odd years later, it's all good.
Wow.
And in my psychotic state, I had a vision and a dream of many things happening, some of which came true, weirdly enough, later in my life. But one of the very strong images that I had lying down in the middle of Richmond Green in Surrey on wet grass was me on stage with Oprah Winfrey and the Dalai Lama.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we have to have these mad things. So in my head, all the other things had kind of come true in my psychosis. And one of the things that hadn't was that I kind of felt this passion that we were saying about your talk on Sunday earlier to speak, but I had this crippling fear, glossophobia of public speaking. Mm-hmm. So I knew I had to do something on stage, and I knew that I had to follow, something with a microphone and being on stage and speaking. And I, about 4 or 5 years ago, got really interested in sugar. Yeah. And 3 years ago, I wrote a research dissertation, 18,000 words, would you believe, on is the word addiction useful around sugar or not?
Oh, wow. I'd like to read that.
Yeah, you're very welcome to read it. The answer was we're not quite sure. For some people, it's really helpful at the beginning, but it may not be a bit later on, because that addiction word is quite loaded. Yeah. So I got really interested in sugar, and to cut a long story short, I thought, if I put the therapy and the speaking and the sugar and something I'm really passionate about together, which is helping people who struggle with their size, their shape, their self-image, their addiction, their food. Obesity touches me more than other addictions.
That's fascinating.
I don't know why, but it really does. I really feel called to do this work. And if I add it all together, then maybe that's my dream job for the next phase of my career and life. And so Sweet Enough was born 2 years ago in India for 6 weeks, having a kind of spiritual journey. And I thought, I have to leave therapy, although I still do it occasionally, and I have to continue this sugar journey. And so I started to think about Sweet Enough, and now we're about to record the online program, and it's starting to become a living, breathing thing. So it's about having a dream for people. Yeah. It's about setting an intention and having a better version of yourself, even if that version is mad.
Yeah. I that's what inspired me so much when I listened to your talk. I'm moving to the other side of the world, and I sometimes pinch myself and I think, am I insane? I've got no job to go to. Yeah, nowhere to live, but hell yes, you know. So tell me a little bit more about Sweet Enough. What is it? How can people get in touch with what you offer? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, I can. It's going to be, and we're recording it now, it's going to be an 8-week online program. So basically, I'm going to be able to walk you through 7 steps in that 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you don't have to change one iota of your food for the first 5 weeks. What I'll do is educate people about the brain and the body and sugar and how they work and why they've been craving, and about basically how their whole system works, and then give them some tools and grounding and resources to actually go sugar-free for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then hold their hand really through that 3-week sugar detox. So there'll be loads of psychological stuff, really. And I've written Sweet Enough with a kind of a metaphor of a voyage, of a journey at sea. So I'll be taking people on a real 8-week journey, so that at the end they not only feel better about themselves and are sugar-free, but also they kind of feel sweet enough inside, because it's more of an internal journey. It's not just a diet plan or a quick fix sugar detox. It's a really emotive, life-changing, I hope, inspirational 2 months. And I'm hoping we'll start it in January, and also be doing a London workshop in January, 2 days with motivation and music and exercises.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's really good fun. I did one this year, and the people that came along had a blast. So I'd like to rerun that again.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing.
And for those people that do struggle and that can't come off sugar in the 8 weeks, the next phase is I'll be doing a much longer detox retreat. And I've already got a team of clinicians and body workers and personal trainers and yoga teachers all lined up, ready to lead people through the next step. So what I'd like to say is that I can take people the whole way, all the way through, until they resolve their relationship, not only with food, but really with themselves.
Yeah. Because in the same way as drugs and alcohol, or, alcohol is a drug, but the problem it isn't the substance, is it?
The problem often isn't the substance, and I think in a lot of cases there's some deeper work that needs to happen, or body work that needs to go on. However, I am saying that some people, if they've got the psychoeducation and they understand about the brain and the body, and if they've got the biological tools, so I've explained hormonally what's going on, why they're overeating, why they're craving. So in a way, they've got the neuro and they've got the physiological, biological part. I'm not presupposing yet for everybody that comes on the program that they need to look at psychological and emotional stuff too. I'll give them a bit of that in the first 7 steps, but what I'm more interested in is giving them all the tools and all the information and the motivation to change. And then if they can't do it in that first 7 or 8 weeks, and they keep lapsing, relapsing, not able, then I'm going to say to them, you need to go deeper.
Yeah.
You need to come on the retreat. You need to go more psychological and emotional. And we need to look at your memories and your stress and potentially any trauma or stuff that you're trying to push down. But I'm not going there initially with everybody to start with.
Because one size doesn't fit all, does it?
No, one size doesn't fit all. And also sometimes to presuppose that everybody with obesity or food issues has got psychological issues also isn't correct. Yeah. Because some people, their leptin and their ghrelin, their hunger hormones are out of whack. It might be that they are so conditioned to sugar that they're just craving it from a biological and neurological perspective, but they haven't got a history of neglect or abuse or abandonment. They just need some strong motivation and tools and a bit of a community to quit And if that's not enough, then let's go into your historical stuff.
That's
and
amazing.
To do that, I'd want to do that on retreat with people.
Yeah. So how long would the retreat be for?
Well, for the next 3 steps after the first 8-week program, it would take us 3 weeks. Wow. We're planning on 3-week detox retreats with body workers and the whole mind, body, spirit thing.
And somewhere that's going to be in the UK?
No, it would be somewhere warm and sunny on a beach in the right environment. Yeah. But I think that will probably be a year off coming. We need to launch the first bit, which is the online program, which I think for a lot of people will work. Yeah. And if it doesn't, then come with us later on retreat, or we'll get you some one-to-one support and some one-to-one therapy to hold you. It depends if food's their primary, doesn't it? And whether they've done, people have done lots of other recovery work on their drugs or alcohol or where they're at.
Yeah. So is this program limited to people in recovery, or is it for anybody?
No, it's for anybody. Wow. Yeah, it's for anybody. And actually, the 7 steps and the whole program itself, if you took the word food and sugar out and replaced it, it would work for you if it was another substance.
Wow. Now that's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I will put the links on the interview, and people can get in touch if they are interested and sign up to your newsletter. And
they can. There's a free recipe book at the moment as well. There's a weekly newsletter, and there'll be a free ebook coming soon. And I'm doing lots of free videos, so they should be out. Gosh, I hope in the next 6 weeks. So. There's lots of resources coming.
Fantastic. And you're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram?
I am. And if anybody needs anything or wants to comment or contact me, go ahead. I'm here.
Fantastic. Just a couple more questions I wanted to ask you. So, I guess we've talked about, the importance of good nutrition. What would you say for those people in recovery, because my audience generally is people in recovery, what would you say the benefits are, or the significance of good nutrition in recovery? Could it enhance your recovery? What would you expect to happen?
Well, to me, food is medicine.
Yeah.
So if we're learning in recovery that it's all about self-care, mm-hmm. and how to treat ourselves well as opposed to treating ourselves badly. Yeah. To me, what we put and what we ingest is so fundamental. And also because we might have compromised reward centers in the brain. We might have down-regulated and up-regulated our neurotransmitters so much through our using. It's almost like we want to treat the brain with extra care. Yeah. And how best to treat the brain than giving it correct nutrients? Like, you can't grow anything in a garden if you don't treat the soil well. Mm-hmm. And we're the same. So, the brain, the plasticity of the brain and healing it from our addictive years is really important. And you can only really heal the brain well if you feed it well.
Yeah. So what are the kinds of things that you would recommend? Sorry,
you go first.
I was just going to say, what are the kinds of foods that you would recommend people in recovery or anybody having a good nutrition program eat?
Anything without a label, and anything that you could eat 1,000 years ago.
Fantastic.
Even better, 10,000 years ago. If you can grow it and it sprouts, perfect. Okay. If you can make it yourself fresh, even better. So all that good, old, solid, what you can't really buy that easily in supermarkets, or if you do, it costs rather a lot.
I read that actually the only real food is around the outskirts of the supermarket.
It absolutely is.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, so you can do out all those middle aisles because it's all packaged and processed.
Yeah.
Actually, I am fighting a little bit on that. I don't believe in fighting, but I believe in championing the supermarkets and the food manufacturers to change, because we're going to make a lot more effect if everybody works together. But, you know, when they start giving us choice and taking the sugar out so that we can have unsugared product, I'll be really happy, because, you know, things like oat cakes and chicken breast and stuff packaged is all laden with sugar.
I bought some nuts today with like
they got sugar in them.
Yes. I couldn't believe it.
No, I know.
Spicy nuts with and gluten as well. Because I was eating them and I was thinking, what's going on here? Because I was thinking, I want some more.
So that as soon as you want, you do that, you know, don't you? There's something chemically in it. I mean, the bugger is, it costs more and it takes time. But nuts, seeds, whole, you know, meat, fish, vegetables, whole foods, just whole foods.
And they don't have to be boring, you know.
No, your recipes and stuff.
Exactly, and I had a look at your, I've downloaded your recipe book as well. There's some really wonderful recipes in there. So I think I'm really passionate about food, whole food, and that it doesn't need to be boring. You know, we can make it interesting, we can make it tasty and delicious, and it doesn't affect us in the same way, but we feel more energised by it. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
And it's not lighting up that reward centre in the brain.
No.
Either.
Exactly. So I think that this brings us on to the last question, which is, what is your favourite meal?
Oh my God, favourite meal. Do you know, my mum cooks me something and she gives it to me in little packaged containers, and it's her, and it's not got potatoes in it, it's the one without, but it's her homemade moussaka.
Oh, that's lovely.
I really love it. She's not Greek or anything, my mother, but I love her homemade moussaka.
That's wonderful.
And actually, she used to do, and I'm not anti-potatoes, but I try and limit them sometimes and go sweet potatoes. But also, she's done a variation of fish pie, cottage pie, with a cauliflower top, which is highly delicious.
That brings us to the end, so
thank you so much. Pleasure, and thank you for all the